Hi, I'm Katie Duke, and I've been a nurse for over 20 years. Listen, I used to think that I was my most stylish in my 20s, but honestly, style and confidence only get better with age. And that is why I love Figs. These scrubs are beautiful, comfortable, and they are built to last. They're not those boxy, scratchy uniforms that we all started out in. No. These fit perfectly. They feel amazing, and the quality is just wow! My favorite color? Burgundy. It's chic, it's timeless, and it's even the same color as my apartment, because I'm kind of obsessed with it. And I love adding custom embroidery to make my scrubs as personal as my style. And since I work in telehealth, my embroidered figs even double as my ID badge. It's never too late to reinvent yourself or your scrubs. Get 15% off your first order at wearfigs.com with the code FIGSRX. That's wearfigs.com, code FIGSRX for 15% off your first order.
This podcast is brought to you by Avocado Mattress. And if healthy, comfortable sleep matters to you, this is one organic brand worth knowing. That's because what you sleep on actually matters.
Most mattresses rely on synthetic foams and chemical materials that trap heat, break down over time, or off-gas. Avocado does it differently. Their mattresses are handcrafted with natural materials, organic latex, organic wool, and organic cotton, designed to be naturally cooling, incredibly supportive, and long-lasting. They're certified organic by GOTS and meet multiple non-toxic and safety certifications. Made for people who care about their health and the environment without sacrificing comfort. I love that Avocado proves you don't have to choose between comfortable, supportive sleep and your values. And now, during our Earth Month sale, you can get up to 15% off Avocado mattresses. Just go to avocadogreenmattress.com. Get up to 15% off at avocadogreenmattress.com. avocadogreenmattress.com.
All right, y'all. Before we dive in, a quick heads up.
This show is raw, real, and definitely not rated PG.
We're talking about adult themes, sexual content, and the kind of stuff you probably don't want blasting through your speakers at work or around your kids.
So grab some headphones, pour your drink of choice, and get comfy.
Oh, and just so we're clear, we are not licensed therapists, counselors, or sex coaches. Sex coaches.
Sex coaches.
Not sex couches.
We're just a couple of people sharing our lives, experiences, and sexy adventures. An ethical non-monogamy. So with that, pull up a chair and enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond Monogamy. I'm Adam.
And I'm Pris.
Okay, so real talk, Pris and I have been in this lifestyle for 14 years. We've had a lot of conversations about sex in bedrooms, in hot tubs, in the car at 2 a.m, going home from a party. We've covered it all.
Yes, trust me, we've covered it all. Yes.
Yeah, but today we are stepping into territory that even we haven't fully explored, and that is sex tech, like actual technology built specifically to make your sex life better, healthier, and way more informed. And I don't mean a vibrator with a Bluetooth connection.
I want one of those.
Yeah, respect. That's good stuff right there.
Yeah.
I'm talking next level stuff, data-driven, science-backed, and honestly kind of mind-blowing. Before we get into it, though, real quick, everything we do, every episode, every clip, our blog, our merch, our anonymous confessional, where you can spill all your secrets without anyone knowing it's you, all of it lives at www.beyond-monogamy.com. Go bookmark that right now. We'll wait.
We are literally waiting.
Yeah. All right, good. Well, good. You're back. Okay, so now our guest today is a physician, he's an entrepreneur, and one of the leading voices in the sex tech space. He's out here doing the work that most doctors won't even say out loud in the waiting room. So please help us welcome Dr. Elliot Justin. Dr. Justin, welcome to Beyond Monogamy.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Well, you know what? When Adam told me we were going to have a conversation with you, and he was telling me about it's all data or it's all tech, I thought robotic dick. That's the first thing I thought of. I was like a robotic, is that what we're talking about? And he's like, nope. And so I had to do a little bit of diving myself. So
that's right. So I'm curious, I'm always interested in seeing how people end up in their field. And you're in a very specific field. So I'm just kind of curious, just to brush up on it a little bit. How does a doctor end up in sex tech?
Well, it helps be interested in sex all your life, right? So I don't know a lot of doctors whose mothers took them to urologists when they were teenagers twice because she was worried about their masturbation habits, preventing them from getting
man.
into college. She thought that masturbating 6-7 times a day was excessive. It's not.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been trained to say that for years now.
She thought I wouldn't get to college, and hey, mom, here I am. It's not, I'm glad you made the point about sex tech because I mean, my mission at Firm Tech, our mission at Firm Tech, is better sexual health and performance for everyone. And how are we going to accomplish that? 2 ways. One is providing people with safe, comfortable wearables that will give them data about their vital signs and what organ is more vital, the penis or the clitoris. So maybe the brain, but I certainly put the penis and the clitoris, up there high, and also through improving the forms of that. And I can describe how we're going to. We have solved the cock ring problem. We'll get to in a moment, and I'll tell you what we're going to do. What we're doing for women shortly. But you made an important point though, which this sex tech that's a novelty. By the way, you didn't tell your audience that all 3 of us right now have vibrating butt plugs up each other, and we're watching genital pornography. Wow, guys, you guys are really
well. There's some things we like to keep on the quiet end,
But and that's fun. That's a novelty. But that's a novelty. I'm interested. I want to deliver data with currently data is not available. And how did I get into this? So I've always been interested in sex. To skip ahead a little bit, my first day of medical school, I looked around the class and thought, these are not my people. This is going to be a long 4 years. But so I went to the medical library, and because back then they had this thing called books, and there was something called the Index Medicus, which was a volume about that wide, about as wide as a big penis, I guess, about that long, and it was a compendium of all the articles published in research from the year before.
Huh.
So, guys, what volume do you think I went for?
Sex all the way, my friend.
No, I went for the A volume because I was interested in aphrodisiacs. Because maybe there just was something that they were hiding from us. There's nothing. It was the same stuff that they talk about today. Yohimbe, Alfanga L-citrulline, L-arginine, horny goatweed, maca root, ginseng.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that the other day because we were down in our hometown in Corpus Christi, and we had oysters. And they always say that oysters are an aphrodisiac. And we're just horny all the time, and we're ready to fuck oysters or no oysters. We didn't see any difference. But
Okay.
Yeah, that was definitely something that came up.
It'd be very hard to do a placebo-controlled trial of that one. How do you blind just, oysters are unique, very hard to reproduce.
Not a real oyster.
Here's a placebo oyster. Anyway, there was exactly a long line of medical students behind me going for the volume. And so, skipping ahead many years, I live in Montana, and I ride horses. My wife says I ride like a 12-year-old. I say I ride at least like a 25-year-old, but I ride with a certain verve. And about, I don't know, maybe it's probably now about 10 years ago. So yeah, about 10 years ago, I was riding over in Paradise Valley. Shh, by the way, Paradise Valley really exists, but keep it a secret, okay? It's the next valley over from where we live. And it was a beautiful day. And frankly, I was being a bit feckless. And I came around the corner going probably like 35 miles per hour. And there's some do-gooder cut a tree that had fallen over the trail so you could walk underneath it, but they weren't thinking about riding underneath it. And I wasn't wearing my plate armor. I didn't have my shield. So I shattered that tree with my chest, but I broke 6 ribs and 6 vertebrae.
Wow.
And that got me interested in what's been done to rehabilitate sexual function, men and women who had a spinal cord injury. Fortunately, I did not. And there were 6 papers in what we call the medical literature, and we should laugh about that because literature is mostly fiction. I think we also learned that lesson. We also learned that lesson during COVID, that most medical research is not reproducible. At that time, I was still ignorant of that fact. So there were 6 papers claiming they were able to neuromodulate human sexuality. So what's the paradigm for neuromodulation that most people know about is cardiac pacemaking. Plant an electrode in the right atrium of the heart. We can make the heart keep beating even after you're dead. So imagine the power of that with human sexuality.
Wow.
And so I thought, wow, yeah, exactly. So they claim that they implant an electrode by everyone's 2 favorite nerves that no one's heard about, the cavernous nerve and the pudendal nerve, the 2 nerves in men and women that are responsible for arousal and climax. And they come out with only the pubic bone in men and women. By the way, women's is a little bit wider than men's. Women have it all over men. And we can talk about later on about why the the clitoris is a superior organ to the penis. We'll get into that later. But anyway, these two nerves come out underneath the pubic bone, and I tried it out on 2 rams, 2 male sheep, working with a veterinary surgeon, and we had erection, although one of the 2 rams required having a female sheep's vagina right in his face to get aroused. Must have been probably porn addicted ram. That's what it was. Anyway, so we tried out 2 rams, and then we got erection ejaculation, but we also got defecation urination.
Huh.
It wasn't quite bedroom friendly. Maybe if you're in certain part of San Francisco or New York or Sydney or
That's
London,
right. That might be the
maybe, but
that might be the goal you want there.
yeah. So anyway, my response to that was, instead of going out and raising, $15, $25 million and then going down to Nigeria, Brazil, and testing on men with ED, my response was, let me try this out on myself. And again, I think I don't think there's any urologist in the world, any doctor. I'm not a urologist. I'm a emergency medicine doctor. Any doctor in the world who has had an electrode implanted by the pudendal and cavernous nerves in an attempt to produce an erection.
You are epic.
Wow.
I am the Louis Pasteur of human sexuality.
That's incredible.
We are boldly going when no man has gone before. Matter of fact, we joked we are on the firm trek. By the way, I'm looking for a hologram room. I don't have that room here yet. Anyway, a friend of mine's urologist implanted an electrode, and we tried by my cavernous nerve, pudendal nerve, and we tried all different voltages and amplitudes, frequencies, and my wife, before I went off to do this, told me, if you fry your dick, we're getting divorced. Fortunately, I did not fry my dick. I did suggest that she'd go first as well, too. She didn't like that idea. Anyway, I felt nothing other than some tingling from electricity. And it wasn't a good kind of tingling. So I actually don't think we understand the neurophysiology of arousal. I mean, my wife says it's Aphrodite. I'm going with that one for the time being. But I think it's a lot more complex than what we imagine. Nor is it something so simplistic as a hormone. Hey, take oxytocin, you get hard on. Take this, you get
right.
It's complicated, and I don't think. I hope to figure it out. Several years later, actually several years ago, 4 years ago, a urology professor at the University of Utah heard about this exploration that I called Project O for obvious reasons, and he said he was trying to count the number of nocturnal erections that men have. And I said, what the fuck for? And he said, well, because they're a leading indicator of men's cardiovascular and sexual health. And I said, wow, that is interesting, because I didn't know that. And in medicine, there are not a lot of leading indicators. In medicine, we treat associations. High blood pressure associated with stroke, elevated lipid proteins associated with heart attack, but it's not predictive. Adam and Pris, if your cholesterol goes from, make it up, 160 to 180, it's not telling you you're going to have a heart attack. If your blood pressure baseline goes from, say, 130 to 145, it's not saying you're going to have a stroke. It's just a signal of a problem. But if a man's number of nocturnal erections, and I think the same thing's going to be true in women, because women have nocturnal erections too. Pris, how many have less? Yeah, you don't know.
Is
that right?
I mean, I guess. He
Yeah,
knows.
I mean,
He knows.
I don't
You
know.
don't even know.
I don't know.
That's a good question, doctor. How many does she have?
There's that camera up in the corner of your room. No, we don't know. Well, Masson and Johnson studied nocturnal erections in women. They're the last people to do it. No one else has done it since then. And they were doing it in a very crude way. They were waking up women, I forget, every hour and a half, and measuring a change in the size of the visible clitoris, which is not the big part anyway, and color of the labia as an indication of blood flow. So really crude. But when it comes to men, we know there's some decent medical literature indicating that the number of nocturnal erections comes down by 50%. That that man is highly likely to have a cardiovascular event, a problem in the next 2 or 3 years. So this really intrigued me, because it'd be like, this would be to give men this information would be like another vital sign, and one that's a lot more interesting to men than some fluctuation in their blood pressure or their pulse or how many steps you took yesterday. And we are, kind of a slothful culture. We're overweight overall. We don't exercise enough. We could be in better cardiovascular health. I mean, it's really embarrassing for a man. And why is it more embarrassing for men than women? But it's really embarrassing for a man if after a few thrusts he's got to lie on his back.
I mean, being in the lifestyle, I've had many of men just not work. And
Yeah.
I'm understanding of that. I'm 48 years old. We're not young, it happens. But it also happens to the younger men.
Yeah, it's really
Um,
not an age thing in this
it's really not an
crew.
age
What
thing.
we've noticed a lot of, and this is interesting enough, is a lot of the people that have hard-on issues or gathering hard-on issues are people that are just overstimulated a lot of
Yeah.
times, or mentally not in it. Although there are a good portion of them that just legit have ED issues.
Well, most of them don't have these. Here's the big finding. And by the way, you're talking about the life or just people who are dating. Women have an advantage over men. As my daughter said, just all I got to do the first night is put a little spit on it. So it's, being in public and having sex in public or sex with someone new can be intimidating.
Overwhelming. Yeah, intimidating.
Yeah, and frankly,
Mhm.
it becomes kind of mysterious. I mean, I'll just talk about myself just to personalize it. The first time I couldn't get up, I was probably 28 years old, and I was with a woman who was quite attractive. I just didn't like her politics. And she
Yeah.
was like
That'll
aghast
do it.
that,
Yeah,
yeah, that,
that'll do it.
That makes me
um,
lose my girl boner too, so I totally get it. I get it.
or it could just be, anyway, there are lots of reasons. Let me get into it. Here's the big finding. Let's just get right to it. We've documented well over 220,000 erections on close to 4,000 men. This is the largest dick database in the world.
Wow.
Previous, what doctors think about erectile dysfunction, heck, what the public thinks about erectile dysfunction. What are the sources for that information? Well, it comes from some studies done in the early 2000s, late 1990s, utilizing two things, both of which suck. One is called the Ridge-Scan, which is falling out of fashion in the United States. It looks like something Dr. Frankenstein would put in your dick, and it measures nocturnal erections. You have to be in a sleep lab, or you have to lie really still. It's got wires going to a box. And when the erection pills, like Viagra cells came along, the government stopped paying for the Ridge-Scan. The Ridge-Scan cost $16,000, and there was an insurance charge for it. The problem with the Ridge-Scan is that, and by the way, and it's still internationally regarded as the gold standard for measuring nocturnal erections, or as we doctors call it, NPT, nocturnal penile tumescence. Anyway, there are two studies now indicating that our device is just as accurate as this technology. And the problem with that technology is that it can't be worn during sex. We measure what's going on during sex, and as well as nocturnals, and what a man care more about what's going on when having sex, or what's going on what I call the night shift. And boy, I wish there was a night nurse come by and checking me out in the night shift, because we guys are really active at night. I mean, a healthy man has 3 to 5 nocturnal erections per night. And our device also can be worn during sex, because it also functions as, I don't want to call it
so
cockroach.
it's a
Go ahead.
device. I was thinking it's like, so it's not an operation. Like, it's not something that goes inside of you permanently. I'm thinking like
No.
I'm thinking like,
Yeah.
that birth control, that depot where you actually put it inside of your skin, like
Oh,
a
yeah.
little scan. So, and you
No,
mentioned a cock ring. So is it a,
here it is.
Oh, wow.
So
Look at
this
that.
is this is a tech ring.
oh, okay.
It goes on differently. So let me first talk about the technology, and then I'll
Sure.
talk about
Yeah.
the advances of the form. And I did turn off my phone, but we're in the Google and Apple stores, and we have Bluetooth-enabled app. The app will tell you how many nocturnal erections you have, how long they last, how hard they are. A healthy man, every guy, certainly in your audience, is over age 45, should want to know the data, just the way you want to know your blood pressure, you want to know your electrocardiogram, you want to know your lip proteins. Every guy should want to know their dick data, because it's a reflection of the cardiovascular health and the sexual health. We are all of us, on the road from erectile fitness, and I like to talk about fitness around dysfunction, but we're all on the road from erectile fitness to erectile dysfunction. And where are we on that road? Men and women. And we don't know. And why don't we know? We don't know because we don't have a fucking dashboard. We don't.
Yeah.
I don't get in my car and say, I think I'm going to drive to Texas, but I'm going to put tape over my dashboard. I mean, that would be stupid. So it's no wonder, crashes and breakdowns occur, because we don't have data about our performance. And with data, you can now, the biohackers talk a lot about hacking your health, but you can't really hack it unless you can track it. And the biohacking world for men's sexual health, there are all sorts of recommendations made. And where there are hopes, there are dopes. Because the reality is, we haven't found a single supplement that works. In theory, some of them should work, but we haven't found a single one that works. And the supplement industry, for men, and for women too, it's a multi-billion industry. There's L-arginine, L-citrulline, nitric oxide, beet juice, on and on and on.
Yeah.
We've tested 12 of them. We haven't found anything that works. Now, that doesn't mean it might not work for you. but it's unlikely. But it still might work for you, but it's unlikely. But if you have data, you can actually test it. With data, you can actually say, gee, what's the right dose of testosterone for me? Instead of, hey, how old am I? What's the average for my age? It becomes personalized. With data, you can actually say, what's the right dose of Viagra? Because I mean, look at the three of us. We're different ages. Pris is a different gender. We're probably different physical conditions. If we went to a doctor right now, told the doctor, hey, my pulse is irregular when I go to the gym, and the doctor said, guys, that's interesting. Take this pill and come back in 6 months. We think, what the fuck is this? 1900? You can check electrocardiogram, you can check a blood pressure. I mean, I gotta hang up this call. Sorry, I apologize.
It's okay.
No problem.
Yeah. We would expect that, in the rest of healthcare, if you have a problem with your kidney, your heart, your bowels, your lungs, we expect that we're going to get data, an imaging study, blood tests, check parameters, etc. But when it comes to sexual health in men and women, it's guesswork. And that's kind of embarrassing. This is the 21st century. And what's more important to people other than their brain than their sexual health? So that's it. So that's the advantage of data. You can assess where you are on this road from erectile fitness dysfunction. Hey, if you're doing great, the gas tank is full. But if your engine light's flashing, you want to see that light flashing. You want to see signals of problems before they become too difficult, to manage. So here it is. We've got a sensor here and a sensor here. It goes on differently. Just happen to have a dildo on my desk. By the way, you guys have a dildo on your desk?
Not on this desk. In the
Not
other
on this
desk we
one.
do. Yeah.
Come on.
I know. Now I feel like I gotta go
And
get
even
'em.
then, I think that one's like in the shape of a unicorn horn.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
it's
I don't know
rainbow.
how,
It's called
how good
Rainbow
it will
Bright,
show
so.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not coming out with any dragons here. So anyway, the goes on differently. The balls get dropped in. It opens and closes with a hook. Just like that. As the penis expands in girth, pushes on the pressure sensor, pulls on the strain gauge, gives the computer 2 data points to interpret your firmness. And now you can see where you are on that road of fitness dysfunction. In addition to which, you're getting the world's safest cock ring that's never had a single medical complication other than, hey, dude, if you're going to manscape, have sex, don't come to me complain about irritated hair follicles, because that ain't a problem. So again, our devices have been used overnight over 220,000 times. And I know for sex, they've been used well over 1 million times.
I was going to ask you about that because I tend to wake up with hard-ons throughout the night, and I just have sex with her. So if I had this thing on, it would keep track of the data, but I would also be able to continue as wow.
Because it's also a cock ring.
So interesting.
So how did we come up with this form and material?
Yes.
I owe it to my wife. She is a Scorpio. Every man should marry a Scorpio. My wife is also really into sex toys, and I'm certain you guys would agree. If you're thinking about getting married, being into sex toys is something that should be high on that checklist.
Yes.
The doctor who approached me with this had never used a cock ring. He's like cock ring version, like most straight doctors. But I use cock rings, and they suck. They're these hard plastic, rings. They pinch, they're uncomfortable. Your wife is buying yet another vibrator for herself because, after all, there's a model or two. And of course she thinks, oh, well, I'll do something for my guy. I'll get him a cock ring. And then they're no good. I do think the Oxballs products, these, because I don't, if I'm endorsing something, our rings are the best, and I'll explain why in a moment, but these aren't bad. But the problem with these rings is you got to snap them over your dick, and then after you come, you got to take them off. But I was scratching my wife's back after she took off her bra, and I'd say probably half the heterosexual sex in the world probably starts when, especially a committed relationship, when a guy is scratching his wife or partner's back. Because why? Because there's a silicone band in the back. It's irritating. It pulls on the skin. And it's the end of the day, especially in a hot climate. And she wants to have a back scratch. And I noticed on her desk that she had a stress ball. Stress balls are made out of elastomer, which is a soft form of silicone. I said, shit. Excuse me. Why? I said, shice. Why we, no, I didn't. I said shit. Why are we making cock rings out of hard silicone for the last 150 years? Why don't we make a cock ring out of an elastomer? Because elastomers have a different property than silicone. Hard silicone makes you adapt to it. That's why women pull on their bras several times during. Average one pulls on her bra 8 to 10 times a day. But by your age, Chris, you don't even think about it most of
Yeah.
the time. You just do it
Yeah.
because it's irritating to the skin. It kind of pulls on the skin. Elastomers, they pull a little bit, but they adapt to the skin as opposed to has to pull on. That's just the nature of the material. And then I looked down on the ground and I saw her bra, and I thought, oh, there it is, the safety feature that we want for a ring. The bra is a ring that opens and closes. Women don't put on bras over their head. Well, sports bra maybe, but women don't put on bras over their head. It opens and closes with a hook. And let's make a cock ring that opens and closes with a hook for 2 reasons. One is safety, so easy on and off. So you never get if it hurts or the guy falls asleep with it and doesn't like it. It's easy on, easy off. But also, Adam, you look like you're a lean guy. I'm a lean guy. I can look down and can see my dick. By the way, I am wearing pants right now, but I can.
Adam
I can.
isn't.
Yes,
This is how we do our show, Doc.
well, I like it. Okay, I'll join you. So it's most guys. I'm 73. Most guys my age look down. They see belly. Most guys age 50 look down and see belly. And these rings can be hard to put on, but every guy can find his balls.
Yeah.
And
Usually,
hopefully,
yeah.
usually, not always. So
Fingers crossed.
and then I got into this with data, but then I realized I'd solved the cock ring problem, which is they pinch, they're uncomfortable, and then no one's put a lot of thought into it. Women in this field commonly complain they don't get enough attention paid to their sexual health. Do you think men get a lot of attention paid to their sexual health? No, nothing.
man.
And
less.
even less. I've actually been at like Sexpo and we have a booth, and I've had women come up to say, oh, not another thing for men. It's like, if I'm in a fucking forest of dildos, vibrators, and lingerie, and you're going to tell me that if you go into any sex store in the United States, and I've been in quite a few, as probably you have, and you want a cock ring, it's back there,
Yeah.
So the cock ring. So this is what we've discovered about cock rings. And this is the game changer. Let me talk about the data again. So here we have this enormous data set, hundreds of about 10,000 erections. The expectations of doctors, myself included, but the expectation of world-leading urologists would be, as the men get older, they report more erectile dysfunction. 10% per decade increase after age 50. By my age, it's 70%. Adam, by your age, it's probably 50% or 55%. And don't tell me you're 20 years old, because if you're 20 years old, man, you've had a hard life. But that's too much partying, man. Way too much partying in that case. But so the expectation was that the number of nocturnal erections would come down, the firmness nocturnal erection will come down, and the firmness of sex erection will come down. Actually, I have that chart right here. And you can see that it's pretty damn flat. So why are men reporting more erectile dysfunction as they get older, but they're staying just as hard? Late 60s, early 70s starts to taper. You'll get there, Adam. And the problem is with the definition of erectile dysfunction. And this is the great news for men and women who listen to this program. It's highly likely that if you think you have ED or been diagnosed with having ED, you don't have ED. You got a problem. And men get saddled with all sorts of negative phrases, not in addition to ED, which shames men. They go online to get pills. It can be dangerous. They don't seek help. Guys don't talk about these things. So we got toxic masculinity.
Oh yeah.
We got porn addiction. What the fuck is that? Look, I admit, if I had another screen going on right now and I'm looking at some hot woman standing on a guy's chest with Jimmy Choo heels while I'm talking to you, I got a problem. But
that's a very specific scene there, Doc.
But I've got men who come to me as either customers or patients who say, well, my wife has that porn addiction, or our therapist has that porn addiction. Like, well, how much porn? Tell me the truth. How much porn are you watching a week? It's like an hour and a half. That's addiction. I mean, that's normal.
I was like, that's not an addiction.
That's kind of low, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
I think when a person watches a whole porn, like an hour-long porn, just from start to finish, that's a problem. Watching it in 2-minute increments, 3-minute increments, that's understandable.
Yeah, well, anyway, and then the one I really laugh about is the death grip. You guys know about the death grip?
Of course.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Well, how come my wife's hand is a love grip and my hand's a death grip? Explain that to me. I don't understand that. Here's what's happening to guys. 12 to 13% of men have erectile dysfunction. And what does that mean? The problem is in the definition. Sexual medicine defines erectile dysfunction as follows: inability to get an erection or difficulty getting an erection. Well, these men have. If anyone's listening to this show and that's your problem on a regular basis, you far more likely than not have a significant cardiovascular metabolic problem, diabetes, and you need to see a doctor. So these men aren't getting enough blood in. Their heart's failing. They got angina, heart attack, congestive heart failure, some other heart problem, or they have arterial these are often combination. They have arterial insufficiency. The arteries that conduct blood from the penis to the dick are narrowing because of diabetes, hypertension, atherosclerosis. That's a problem, and that's why data is really valuable, because we've had 3 men that were aware of get cardiac catheterizations because they were blaming their wives for their sexual problems. They had a heart problem, and we've had quite a few men who it's like I'll pick on. Look, I'm not going to ask how you're old, Adam, but I'm certain you should be having 4 nocturnal erections per night. If you're having 2 or less,
I get a good amount.
No.
I get a good.
But if you were having 2 or less, you got a problem, and you wouldn't know it because you'd still be able to perform sexually. Because it isn't until things that really get disastrous, like you have 1 nocturnal erection and strength is less than 4 or 5. That that really becomes obvious. So just like a blood pressure electrocardiogram or a cardiac echo, tracking nocturnal erections can give men a signal of significant cardiovascular and or sexual health issues before they become a disaster.
Well, now, Doc, before you go any further, I'm sorry to cut you off, but
Sure.
there is something that I'm curious about, because while we're on the subject of data, all the data that you've seen come in, what has some of the most surprising data that you've seen? Like, has there been anything that's really just kind of shocked you?
Yeah, what shocked me is about what I'm about to tell you, which is that most men don't have ED. Because the second part of the definition, this is the vast majority of men, likely including you too, Adam. The vast majority of men get just as hard, but they lose it earlier.
No.
Adam, let me ask you a question.
Come on, no.
She said
Not
no.
even him.
Okay, Adam, when you were 14 years old, you can hold a girl will hold your hand for 5 minutes. You got a hard on for an hour and a half.
Absolutely.
With no stimulation. Pris,
Absolutely.
you're hot. So I'm not talking about that situation. Situation. Look, but so we lose our
that makes
erection.
sense.
We lose
I
our
get it.
erection. Women too, by the way. But a vibrator compensates. A vibrator is something neurological pleasure. A vibrator, just the vibration itself, to keep the arteries open and maintain the blood flow. Now it's multifactorial in men, but and it could be maybe I shouldn't have that 3rd cocktail. Maybe staying up till 2:00 in the morning. It was a mistake. Maybe the baby crying next to me was kind of distracting me, or I'm worried about paying the mortgage, or is my wife cheating on me? Or it could be could be a whole variety of fact, or the last 3 times things just didn't work out, and now I've lost my confidence. And then there were the medications that we doctors foolishly prescribe to people without warning them about the sexual side effects. The SSRI antidepressants are dick and clit killers. They shouldn't even be prescribed. I'm hostile to them as class of medication. Their long-term side effects are unknown. We know that they're hard for people to stop, and we know that in a small minority of men, and likely women too, they don't function at all sexually afterwards. And then there are certain antihypertensives as well that can impact our abilities, to sustain erections or climax. So it's multifactorial, but what's going on? Guy gets hard, loses it. At the basic physical level, blood is leaving the penis, and the primary direction of therapy is to keep blood in the penis. The PD-5 medications, take them by all means. I'm talking about tadalafil, and I'll tell you about the tadalafil research just one moment. But the PD-5 medications like tadalafil and Viagra, they put more blood in, but they don't keep it there. Only a ring can keep it there, and that's the solution for most men.
So
And
it's
here's other problems. Go ahead.
so it's the ring, and it's giving you data. Now what? Now what? After that, is it gonna, like, you go to your doctor, you tell him this is my data, and who's seeing all this data?
Just me. I have it all stored in my head. I've got.
I'm
I
like,
have
wait, like, I mean,
226,000 erections in my head now.
like, is it it's data? Is it?
It's all cyber secure. It's all anonymized. I can't look at anyone's data unless they give me permission. The data is anonymized for research purposes, so we can research. I mean, there are like 9 published papers about all this, and I want to get to some of that research in just a moment. But it's all anonymous. But the data comes on your app,
Okay, gotcha.
and you can choose whether to share the data
Oh.
with someone, and it's being used by there are doctors who are getting the data from people, and I have lots of people. There are people I take care of, as well too, and
Because that's the point, right? That's the point of gathering that data is for,
right.
say, me. If I'm the man and I've gotten all this data, it's for me to go and share it with a doctor, or go and share it with somebody, a urologist, so that they can help fix me.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
So
that's
here's
really smart.
Yeah.
Here's some data facts for you. This involves so there are 3 studies comparing the ring, not the tech ring. The tech ring is adjustable, so you can achieve the same effect with this by adjusting it through the hook. But we make this ring that we call a maximum performance ring. There are 3 studies comparing this ring to 10 milligrams of Dalafil, Cialis, most commonly prescribed, erection pill. And we looked at no one looked at this before. We were looking at detumescence, the time it takes for erection to go down after climax. And these studies were not done with someone like you, Pris, looking at Adam's dick. These studies were done by men, but we're trying to eliminate all the variables. We just, no,
no attractive people whatsoever.
Right. And after you climax, turn the porn off. No stimulation. With nothing, it was like 25, 35 seconds for erection to go down. With the ring, our ring, of course, with the maximum performance ring, it was close to 3 minutes. And with Dalafil, it was 2 minutes. And with both together, it was over 4 minutes. Now, the takeaway from that is, 1, ring should probably be the first line of therapy. And if you don't want to take a pill, put a ring on it. 2, if all men, not just guys who have ED, but all men want to optimize their performance, put a ring on it and take a pill. And the advantage of our rings over these O rings is that the O rings don't allow the arterial blood to flow in. They choke it off. Who wants to fucking lynch their dick?
Yeah.
So our rings allow the arterial blood to flow in, and they just constrain the venous return, kind of like plugging a sink, 75%. Because the harder you are, the more pressure on the superficial veins. But there have been 0 complications to our device, our device, no priapism, nothing. And to my amazement, not a rash. I mean, I thought by now, given guys' hygiene, I would have seen a yeast infection or 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
now, do you make them in different sizes? Because some penises are smaller. But I know you said it adjusts, right?
Yeah. So what
Okay.
we have a larger. The performance ring is for larger men. The
Okay.
max PR is for normal men. But the reality is the bell curve for penis size, the girth. I'm not talking about length. A lot of variability in length of penis, but girth. The bell curve is really narrow. And
Okay.
the Japanese, the Koreans are on one end, and there are certain Africans on the other end, but it's narrow. So our device, we devise the tech ring to handle like 95% of men. We are selling devices now in Japan and in Singapore, and we've had guys are smaller. We've had no complaints thus far about guys from school. Now, guys, there are men who older men, and I'm one of them, take testosterone. There are men who've had prostate surgery, and testosterone will shrink the testicle. And any guys really sexually active, any woman or man as well, guys sexually active, recognizes that you don't know where the balls are going to be. But especially the left testicle tends to ascend. It's called the premasteric reflex, and there's a little muscle that actually pulls it up. So it was designed to be like a bra for balls. That's what my wife calls it. Keep the balls down.
Yeah.
But we have had a couple of guys who, these are old people, these are prostate disease and access post prostate surgery, and they're on testosterone, and their testicles shrink. And so with those guys, I recommend that just get a simple O-ring and put it around here just to, hold the balls down while you're having sex.
Yeah.
But that's a pro tip. You should. So anyway.
That's amazing. So that's for men. What do we got for women?
Let's see what we got here. First, I'll show you the ring
What do
mate.
we got for women? Yeah.
Because I mean, what kind of data would a woman need? I mean, I want to know now. What kind of data would a woman need to gather? I mean, I know men have their ED, right? But not.
That's because you've never heard of FSD, female sexual dysphoria. So if it's 50% of men report ED, I think it's bogus because most guys just can't help maintain erection. By age 50, it's 54% of women. So what happened?
Wow.
Because the feminists, we used to, before you were born, Pris, or maybe you were in diapers, and I was dating in the 70s and 80s, we used to have phrases like frigid, anorgasmic, hysteric, cold to describe women. And the feminists came along and said, fuck that, you can't do that. It's demeaning. We guys could be demeaned. We can get dumped on, but we can't do that to women. And and then along came vibrators. And vibrators helped, obviously, enormously. So, I mean, and they've become normative. Vibrators, there were steam-powered vibrators in the 1870s, 1880s, but some really smart people, and they were men, it should have been women. There's really smart people in this 1970s said, let's commercialize vibrators.
Oh,
And
should have been women.
Should have been women.
See them in the novelty magazines and everything like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's concern back then about how, hey, it's the end of the American family. Women are going to prefer vibrators to men. It's going to be numbing. It's unnatural. But women have premenopausal women take birth control hormones and antidepressants. Men don't take birth control hormones, and premenopausal women take antidepressants 4 to 6 times as much as men do. And those things have a negative impact on their sexual performance and long-term effects too. And if you could measure clitoral engorgement, you could determine what's the right dose. Because right now, as you know, it's just one size fits all. Hey, whether you weigh 100 pounds, 300 pounds, take this pill. With data, you become an N of 1. And in medicine is like the number of subjects. You are now an N of 1. You can find out what works or not is not working for you. And then postmenopausal women have the same problems as men do with obesity, diabetes, hypertension, atherosclerosis, heart attacks, etc. So this is profoundly valuable for women. And it'll tell women, what's the right dose of estrogen if I'm postmenopausal? What's the right dose of testosterone if I'm postmenopausal? And I recommend.
Because I'm actually in menopause. So I'm 48 and I hit menopause very early because I had a hysterectomy when I was in 2013. So I did hit menopause pretty early. And I just started taking estrogen in a patch probably about 3 months ago, consistently a month ago. And I do see the difference, but I would rather not. I would rather not take
Why aren't you taking testosterone?
My levels are fine.
How do
The
you
doctor
know?
didn't say
What's your level?
I have no idea, but I can tell you about it later. I really don't. I know they did a test. They did test me.
All right.
And
I'm just trying to make an important.
scared. I'm also scared to take testosterone. I have friends that take testosterone, women, and their clits just get bigger. And
Is that a feature or a bug?
I mean, I don't know. For me, I don't know.
I mean, it's not like you suddenly have to start wearing men's underwear.
I don't know. It just makes
It's not like you have to tie a string to it and it's a balloon. It'll fly away.
It makes me feel super insecure about that. Like, I don't know. It's me. It's a me thing. Not like I've seen larger clits and I have no problem with them.
It's a side effect you choose not to have.
But it's a side effect I choose not to have.
Right.
Yeah. I just don't want to. But now that you're saying this, I mean.
But then also what I found
tell.
interesting, doctor, is so you're saying that the use of a vibrator is actually good for or healthy, stimulating in that way. Pris actually had reservations about using her vibrator often because she said she was afraid it would numb her and prevent her from enjoying orgasms with me without.
Yeah, didn't happen. But
I'll talk about my marriage. My wife can come without a vibrator. But why does she prefer to use it? Yeah, and we still have sex without vibrators sometimes. But why does she prefer sex with a vibrator? Because it's more powerful. Look, my wife could come to bed, could go to bed with a fucking bandolier of vibrators. I mean, there's so much, shape, form, color, match your lingerie, my indirect, direct. It's really, it's really extraordinary. And I don't. So that's look. There are lots of things that. Well, let's talk about natural for a moment. Do you cook outside on sticks, or do you use a stove?
I use a stove.
Yeah. By the way, Pris and Adam, both of you, do you guys run as fast as you did when you were 25?
No.
I think I ran about the same, which was not very good.
I think you both are suffering from running dysfunction, and you need to see doctors to get this addressed. And we have therapy for you, and we have medications for you, and your insurance will cover the exercise plan. You understand the point I'm making? We have medical.
Yeah.
If most men do not dysfunction, and I don't think most women have dysfunction either. But there are optimizers, and vibrators are optimizers for women, and pills and cock rings are optimizers for men. And guys should open their minds about this. You guys are in the life. what's the most frustrating thing for guys at a party is losing it.
Oh, yeah.
So what can help keep it
Absolutely.
up? What do guys do at the extreme? They inject.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Prostate dick.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried it once, so I was curious. I'll try anything. Heck, I had an electrode planted in me.
Yeah.
So I don't need to inject in order to get
Mhm.
an erection. And all that, I do use rings. Why do I use them? With my wife, I'll get to that in a second. But guys inject. I tried it. It's painful. And the orgasm was not that pleasurable. The orgasm kind of reminded me of when I had blue balls, age 13, and I finally jerk off to get rid of it. It was a relief, but it wasn't pleasure.
Enjoyment.
It wasn't enjoyment,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I've got a guy who I'm giving advice to, really good looking guy. He's 35 years old. He looks like every girl's dream, and every guy's, oh my God, I don't want to go out with him in the room and try to pick up a girl. He's like 6'4". He's got like a 12-pack. He makes close to $1 million a year. Former athlete, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, he's dating online, and he's in a major metropolitan city, and he should be having a great time, but he got a really bad case of performance anxiety. He thought he had ED. He got the ring, the tech ring, saw that he had nocturnal erections, and the problem is here, but he can't get out of it because he's lost his confidence, and he doesn't. Part of his problem, by the way, and this is something the guys that open their minds to as well too, is that he thinks these girls have the expectation that they're women, not girls. They have the expectation that he's going to be hard, and he wants to perform really well. But
No.
I commonly tell guys over some the age of 30, you're not going to be able to perform with everyone. Don't even have that expectation. And maybe someone who you might really like, that might even be intimidating to you. I think Pris, you kind of alluded to this before. Most women, experienced women, they get it. They
Yeah.
get it. And I don't think injecting is the answer because we don't know the long-term side effects of frequent injecting. This guy's injecting 4 or 5 times a week
Oh,
with
wow.
strangers. And he's actually afraid, he told me, to go out with someone very often because they'll see what he's doing. And it's embarrassing. But, and my suggestion to him was, hey, you just get intimate with someone, get hard, and put a ring on it beforehand. I'm a thing I hear from men complain, or problems men have in a sustained relationship or marriage is, I go to bed with my wife or girlfriend, I get hard, I go down to her because that's what she comes, and in a healthy relationship, a woman comes first and third. And then she wants me to penetrate her, and I can't, or I lose it. And they don't have it in them to say, I need a hand job right now. I need your mouth. Hey, wake up, honey. I know you just
Right.
had an orgasm.
Yes.
And then both partners get performance anxiety
Yep.
about this. And so that's where the ring is really valuable. Here's the other thing we have for women, though. We call this the ring mate. My wife
Oh,
invented it.
wow.
The ring mates.
It looks
She
like a
wa-
tongue.
Huh.
and on purpose.
Wow.
And so my wife's just thought was she wanted a hands-free vibrator
Yes.
for penetrative, for coming in penetrative sex, and she didn't find the ones. I'll tax them brands. The ones by Lilo, Dame,
Yeah.
Satisfy. The big and clunky. For one thing, the male part is just a ring. It rotates. Next thing you know, like vibrating a thigh. Who gives that? Who cares about that? Our ring is anchored to the balls, so it can't rotate. This slides on and off the ring. It sits right there. It's in the right place anatomically for where the clitoris is. But then she laughed the first few times she said, "I came too quickly." So it was also devised by her
Is
Come
that
be-
a problem?
to be a finger
Sometimes.
to be a finger vibrator. Now I do like the
Wow.
one, but I do like the one that Dane makes. I think it's a good tool. But my wife is 72. What's her problem with like using a wand? Well, she gets wrist fatigue. I get wrist fatigue if I'm using a wand. It's just awkward. And also, if you're having sex from behind, the guy's behind, the reach around, this movement. I don't know, Adam, you're a young guy, but this movement to me, in any
I got
sustained way,
carpal tunnel.
No, yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
Even
all of a
for
sudden it
me,
stays like this for days
Yeah,
after
no,
that.
I understand. Yeah.
So this makes your fingers vibrate, obviously, and that's great.
Wow.
But the other thing we discovered, this is a pro tip, keep this one among ourselves. You take it off and put it inside the vagina. So it can't get stuck up there. It has these loops for grabbing
Right.
hold of taking it out. But what does that do for the guy? You're now, the head of your dick has a vibrator against it. I don't know about
How fun.
Pris, but my wife's vagina does not vibrate. And
You got to
so
push the nose. You got to go point. You're not hitting the right spot, homie.
it's 3 speeds, right?
It's right here. That's right.
Anyway, that's a lot of fun. So that's the ring mate. But here's the next thing. And this is a model. It's not going to be this color, but this is the ring mate. Actually, this isn't the latest version. Now it took us 3 tries to get the male form factor. This is like version 16. Version 28 is somewhere downstairs. We're on version 28 for women. So we had to come up with something that could be worn overnight and not be expelled in the vast majority of women. Because we want to count nocturnal erections. We want it had to be something that would not come out during vigorous sex in various positions. I have to say, the only position I've not tried is standing up. I'm too old for that. But every other position has been tried. So this slips behind the pubic symphysis. A pressure sensor here to measure PCG muscle contractions. That's interesting. Linus vibrator does that too. So that's interesting. But I want to get it at the clitoris. So this is the way it sits. Just happen to have a clitoris on my desk. In case people aren't watching this is not something that was cut out of a woman. This is actually something that developed by
purple and yellow.
Anyway, so it sits like that. So these are the bulbs of the clitoris. That's where most of the blood is. This is the glands. We all know about that. But the bulbs are invisible. The bulbs sit behind the labia minora, and we have sensors here and here that are capturing engorgement of the bulbs of the clitoris. Now, the bulbs of the clitoris get more blood than the penis does. Why? Because we joke that the penis is just a prolapsed clitoris, because these organs are homologous, and so the bulbs, these structures here, are like the corpus cavernosus, the 2 tubes in the penis that fill up with blood. But why, if they get more blood, why are they smaller than the penis?
Huh.
Do you know?
No.
I didn't know this. 2 years ago, I didn't know. I learned this 2 years ago. It's because as these bulbs fill up with fluid, transudate serum into the vagina. And the vast majority of vaginal secretions is a blood product. It's serum. And they mix with mucosal glands around the outside of the vagina, and some small amount of mucosa stuff coming out of the Skene's glands. And the problem, Pris, you asked about what's going on with women. The problem is women with diabetes, hypertension, atherosclerosis, women taking certain medications, they don't fill up their bulbs as much. So they get drier and they have painful intercourse and other issues.
Yeah.
So being able to measure the engorgement of the bulbs of the clitoris would be really valuable.
Wow. That is amazing.
That's fascinating.
That's amazing. I want all of that.
And we're gonna have that certainly as research as a lab tool by the end of the year, and we'll be commercializing that the first quarter next year. And we'll add a vibrator.
The rings are available now for men.
The rings are the rings are available for men.
Okay. And where can they find those?
You have to come visit me in Montana. And
okay.
No.
We've always wanted to come to Montana. So.
We have a friend who lives in Montana.
No, you can find us at myfirmtech, MYFIRMTCH, myfirmtech.com, and you can reach me personally at Elliot, ELLIOT at myfirmtech.com.
Nice.
Perfect.
All right. Because I definitely I'm going to get one for you.
Dude,
I'm
down for the down. I'm a data-driven person, honestly.
Yeah.
And, I like to know every bit about myself. I always felt like there was something wrong with me in the fact that I get a lot of erections. I'm very hypersexual. I always have been. Mm-hmm. And the older I get, it really hasn't slowed down much.
Way to go, man. You're an outlier.
Thank you.
But I'm attributed to Pris. I'm just look at her.
Well, she's my natural Viagra, man. So, when I'm with her, forget it. I don't have to worry about a thing. But, we are in this lifestyle, and we do perform with other partners, and it can get a little daunting at times, if I can't get out of my head. Now, we are going to wrap up, Doc, but I do have one question, something that I'm learning about myself here. You had mentioned that not everybody suffers from ED. A lot of times it could be certain things where they could be diabetic, or they could have high blood pressure, that sort of thing. As somebody who is somewhat ignorant in this field, and I know a lot of people who think the same way as I do, especially in this lifestyle, I thought that was a part of ED, or I thought that's what it meant to have ED, was that you had these underlying issues, and that's what caused your flaccid penis issues. So
That's
what is
exactly
it?
what big pharma wants you to think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
and so
want you.
that's what
They
I know
want you.
that that's what I thought.
They want you to
Everybody
take
else,
pills. And
yeah,
what do the doctors want? I've been a doctor for a long time. You get the health care that can be billed for, not necessarily the health care that you need or want. It's really hard to get. The medical system pays like nothing for advice, so you don't get advice. And the doctors only know, the doctors are kind of siloed in the knowledge. Plus, they don't spend any time with you. I've never had a doctor, unless I precipitated on my wife's not a doctor, talk about sex. The most important question a doctor should ask someone who says, I didn't have ED, it should be, when do you get it? As in,
Oh.
is a problem that you can't get it up, or is a problem you get up and you lose it? Well, and by the way, is there a difference between when you're masturbating and when you're trying to have sex with a partner? Those are two basic questions, and the effing doctors don't ask it, and it's so obvious. Most men do not have ED. You just have a problem. And now, you do need the data to sort it out. Hey, but most men don't have heart attacks, but I still get an electrocardiogram every year. Most men, don't have diabetes, but I still check my sugar. I mean,
right.
getting normal data is still valuable. And your data is probably going to be normal, but it'd be nice to know that it's normal. It'd be nice to set a trend. It'd be nice.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if it's normal now, but 3 years from now, you notice a problem. Well, now you got data, comparative data.
Yeah, for sure. Well, with that, since we know now that is not what ED is, what is ED exactly in simplistic terms?
Well, ED, according to the International Society of Medicine, is one of three things: difficulty getting erection, difficulty maintaining erection, and the last one will just make you laugh: difficulty having satisfactory intercourse. Well, intercourse? Seriously? And satisfactory to whom? I mean,
wow.
I've got men I take care of. This is a sad problem. I mean, they usually have psychological issues who say they have intercourse without any problem, but it's not satisfactory. Oh.
Wow.
So that's the definition. Now what's the result of this definition? One, the research is stupid because it groups together three different types of problems in one. And also, it means, hey, everyone gets a pill. That's what doctors do. We buy out pills. Now, what's the problem with a pill? The problem is Viagra is like Vicodin, meaning you could be masking a problem. Now, I have no problem with a guy who's 25 who's dating girls, strangers online, going online and getting some pills. Go ahead. But even someone as young as you, Adam, if you had a problem, you should want data. If you went out and got pills, you might delay figuring out what the problem really is for a year or two.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
That's really good
and that's
information.
really great advice because, a lot of us, and I've talked to a lot of men out there, they do not want to take pills, but that's the easiest thing to do because you just go online, you fill out the information, and before you know it, you have a prescription. It's very easy. So yeah, we definitely want to find out more about data-driven. Dr. Justin, this has been genuinely fascinating. And I do say that as someone who was not sure what to expect walking into this conversation about sex tech at all. You made it very real. You made it very practical. And honestly, you made it a lot of fun, which we really appreciate you being here with us.
Yeah, seriously. Thank you so much.
Now, for everyone who's listening and you want to learn more about Dr. Justin, you can actually find all of his information in our show notes as well as on our website. Be sure to go check that out because what he's doing is genuinely worth your attention.
It's really cool stuff.
Yeah. And speaking of cool stuff, you know where we live. Everything Beyond Monogamy is at www.beyond-monogamy.com. That is your one-stop shop, people. Full episode library, video clips, guest bios, like our Dr. Justin here, our blog, merch, our events, our calendar.
Yes.
And yes, the anonymous confessional that we always talk about, where you can submit your stories and your questions, and nobody will ever know that it was you. It's all there.
All of it.
Yeah.
We're also streaming live every Thursday over at fullswapradio.com. We have 2 shows, 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. Central. Come hang out with us. It's real. It's awesome. There's other podcasts there, so you're going to have a good time.
Yeah, it's the best time. And listen, if you haven't gotten anything out of today's episode, do us a solid. Hit subscribe wherever you're listening. Leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It seriously helps. More people find us, and more people finding us means more conversations like this one. So share this episode with somebody who needs to hear it. I know that there's a lot of my fellas out there who need to hear it.
Yeah, send it in your group chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Send it in the group chat. And with that, we thank you guys for listening, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye.